Hello everyone, all 22 and a few film review, giving you guys the next episode of Draft Wraps, my draft class analysis series where we dive deep into all 32 classes, letting you guys know how I feel about every pick according to my big board, who's left on the board positionally, is it a team need, is it a scheme fit. We'll be talking about paths for starting for all these players, as well as immediate role projections if I see that for the player. So if you want to learn more about the Chiefs class that we're going to be talking about today, or any of the other 31 classes in the NFL, make sure you dive through the channel, as this is the last one. There is going to be no videos coming out after this one. Very excited to talk about my number one ranked draft class for this 2025 offseason, the Chiefs here. This was an A-plus class to me. It gets a 3.531 numerical grade. That numerical grade coming from an equation that I made for you guys, so you guys could have more of a concrete feel about how I feel about all these classes, stacking the same letter grades, seeing how far different kind of classes your favorite team's classes are, all that good stuff. Just a little extra fun thing we could come back to. But, the video is more about the analysis per pick and then the letter grades per pick. But like I said, just a little extra fun thing that we can learn from, come back to later, see where I was right, see where I was wrong. But they have the number one class, in my opinion, a very, very good class, getting some insane values and just hitting all their positions of need that I think were the most immediate pressing needs, in my opinion. Now, they do have 4 day 1 and 2 grades, or day 1 and 2 picks, so going to be a little bit weighted more into those grades. They only had 3 day 3 grades, which are weighted less in the equation, but they slammed day 3 out of the park, in my opinion. So I'm very excited to talk about this one with you guys. Now, they start out with Josh Simmons, a tackle out of Ohio State, then go Omar Norman Lott, an IDL out of Tennessee, Ashton Gelati, an edge out of Louisville, Noel Williams, a corner out of California, Jalen Royals, a wide receiver out of Utah State, Jeffrey Bassa, a linebacker out of Oregon, and Brashad Smith, a running back out of SMU. A very good class, in my opinion. Like I said, very excited to talk about this one with you guys. The culmination of this series, finally making it to the end. The 30-second video. Thank you guys if you've stuck it around this far. I've dived into kind of the different videos. It has been a long journey kind of making my first series, but glad to be giving you guys the final one. Let's get into it. They start out with Josh Simmons, a tackle out of Ohio State, with the 31st pick. A pick I thought they were going to make earlier. I'm so happy they made it. It was the route I wanted them to go. He was my 11th overall player in this class, a true first rounder to me. If it wasn't for this injury, this guy would have been taken in the top 15, probably the top 10. Such a good left tackle, man. Outside of Josh Connerly, the most technically sound tackle in terms of pass pro in this entire class. This man is so technically sound in terms of pass pro and has a little bit better of an anchor than a Josh Connerly. Also likes to get after it in the run. This is just a very, very good athletic full-size tackle. Very fun to watch. His season was cut very short this season, unfortunately, but in those first few games, man, this guy looks so good. He looks so good. I'm very happy they went this route. They do sign Jalen Moore to a 2-year, $30 million deal after moving Kingsley Sumatai into guard after he did not look great out at left tackle last year as kind of a project second-round pick. Now, 2 years, $30 million does not stop you from drafting someone. There might be gripes of, why did we take a left tackle in the first? We just signed one. 2 years, $30 million is not a long-term deal, especially with the way contracts are set up nowadays. After this season, if they don't want him around, that's an easy cut. You just eat the dead cap, honestly, because most of that money is going to be front-loaded. So bringing in a tackle to be your long-term tackle, especially Josh Simmons, coming off an injury where you might not be 100% comfortable, playing him in year one coming off that injury. You just signed a tackle to be a Band-Aid for year one while he recoups, while he rehabs, while he learns the playbook and gets integrated with the team and in the system. Perfect fit. Such a great value. He was my 3rd overall tackle, the 5th one taken off the board. Like I said, my 11th overall player. Such a good player, man. Absolutely loved it. An A+, super A+ for them, honestly. A 6'5", 317-pound tackle, going to be 24 throughout most of his rookie season. On 158 pass block snaps, allowed 0 sacks, 0 hits, only 1 hurry up to that point in the season. Was on a tear through this beginning part of this season. Was a 2024 Big Ten honorable mention despite the injury, and a 2-year starter for Ohio State before coming over from San Diego State, where he played right tackle. So might have some tackle flexibility in there too, just a little bit of added value that you'd like to see. But again, a very, very good pick, man. This was the perfect route for the Chiefs in the first round, in my opinion. As we kind of get through the rest of this class here, it really felt like someone in the Chiefs organization has been a fan of the channel. Now, of course, that's definitely not the case, as I am a tiny channel. But that's definitely how it felt. Throughout this process, I really wanted them to get Josh Simmons. That's exactly what they did in the first round. And then they go after Omar Norman-Lott in the second with the 63rd pick, the 31st pick of the second round, who I had 62 on my big board, my 8th overall ranked INDL, and the 9th one taken off the board. So right at the spot, right where I had him valued, was my best IDL left on the board, and a spot I wanted them to go after in this class. This group has been a rotating door of rotational players and players getting snaps next to Chris Jones. Chris Jones has been fighting for his life on the interior for the Chiefs over the last few years, getting double teamed, having to play edge for the Chiefs when they've had a lack of edge rushers in that room. It's been a hard go for him. I really wanted them to get another guy who brings enough presence as a pass rusher that you at least take some pressure off Chris Jones. Someone that could at least win one-on-ones if Chris Jones is going to get double-teamed, triple-teamed every snap. Someone who could at least hold their own on third downs and be a threat. Omar Norman-Lott is 100% exactly that. One of the most nuanced and day one ready pass rush interior linemen in this entire class. If you're just drafting people based on true pass rush ability for this IDL line, for this IDL kind of draft class, he would be a top 5. Now, in terms of being a 3-down player, it's much more of a projection for him. He never was a full starter in his 5-year career and was a reserve player for Tennessee this year. They didn't play him basically on any early down snaps. They only played him as a rusher. Now, when he was on the field for the occasional run defense snaps, he honestly didn't look bad in my opinion. He didn't seem like he was a liability. It seemed like it was more of a case of they had a very deep line with guys that were a lot bigger than he was. That just made more sense playing on a 3-down or playing on an early down basis where you can allow him to save all of his juice for the pass rush where he's best and just allow him to go to town. Now, I think if you want to play him on early downs, it is going to be more projection based. He's not used to that role. He isn't the biggest interior lineman at 6'2", 291, but he didn't seem like a liability. If you get him in more of a 5-1 penny front or a 3-4 kind of odd front, they do get a little bit variable with Steve Spags over there. He can be fine. He can be sheltered around. He can penetrate. He can make some splash plays. It's not something you're going to want to do consistently early, but I don't think it is out of, his game. I think it is something he can develop in his game somewhere in his career, 2-3 years down the line and become a very solid 3-down type player. But right now, he is going to rotate in on, 2-minute game, on nickel, on dime, on heavy pass situations on third down, and he's going to be a stunt wizard. He is going to eat up one-on-ones with guards and centers when there's going to be so much allocation dedicated towards Chris Jones and making sure that George Karlaftis has somebody on him. Omar Norman-Lott is going to be an afterthought, and he's going to go to town. This was a very good pick in my opinion, and like I said, he was 62 on my big board, taken at 63. This is right around the spot I thought he should have been going at the back end of the second. He was my 8th overall IDL and the 9th one taken off the board. So positionally, I think it's great. A 6'2", 291-pound interior, like I said earlier, not the biggest guy in the world, but you can develop him into a 3-down guy. I don't think it is out of his game. Going to be 23 in his rookie season, put up a 5.95 RAS, mostly due to the fact that he is at 6'2" and under 300 pounds. In terms of RAS, that is going to hold him back. But this is a guy with a lot of get-off and a lot of pass rush nuance. Man, this guy has a lot of moves in his tool belt, knows how to win with power, knows how to counter off his moves, knows how to win with finesse. This guy is a pass rush specialist and a good one at that. Had 4 sacks, 3 hurries, and 18 tackles. Like I said, he wasn't a starter. He was on the reserves, has never been a full-time starter. But the fact he was coming off the reserves and still getting 4 sacks from an interior spot, that's not bad at all. He spent 2 years at Tennessee before being at Arizona State for 3 years. Now, he did start 2 games for Tennessee last year and actually had better production playing not full-time, but, getting more snaps. I'm surprised they didn't kind of trust him to be more of a full-time starter this year. But like I said, they had a lot of bigger-bodied interior guys that made more sense for early down situations. A lot of projection with his game, but this is a guy with a ton of upside, and I'm trusting them to be able to develop him, especially learning with a guy like Chris Jones. I think it is a very good pick. Again, an A for me. Next, they go Ashton Gelati, an edge out of Louisville, with the 66th pick, the second pick of the third round. Now, in terms of true value, this was a tiny bit early for me. Ashton Gelati was 82 on my big board, my 16th overall edge, the 11th one taken off the board. So it was a bit early for me, but I did think he was more of a mid to late third round type guy. So I really don't hate it at all. Just, I thought there were some other guys that were better picks for this spot that I would have taken before Ashton Gelati. Now, for that being said, he does fit this room very well. You think about the type of player George Karlaftis is. Ashton Gelati is kind of a similar mold as a thicker, not super long. Karlaftis is definitely longer than him, but a thicker, powerful guy that can play on early downs. Ashton Gelati also flashes the ability to threaten the edge. He's not a superb athlete, so it's not like speed is going to be his go-to, but he threatens the ability to threaten the edge and actually get his hips through and stack tackles on his rush, and get his hips through on his rush and actually finish around the edge and not just pressure around the edge. So I really like his upside. Like I said, not an outwardly athlete, but he's got the technical ability to be a productive pass rusher and someone that can really help out this room. George Karlaftis is definitely a solid piece, not a super high-end piece, but a solid one. It doesn't seem like they love Felix and Anudike Uzama, who didn't seem like a great pick at the time. I wasn't a great fan of the pick. Hasn't really done much for them. Mike Dana doesn't really keep you from drafting anybody. They bring in Charles Menahu, who also doesn't really keep you from drafting another long-term option in this room with a lot of pass rush upside. And Ashton Gelati has a lot of technical pass rush upside and a very solid run defending base. I like him a lot, honestly. Just thought there was a few more guys that I would have taken ahead of him. But for this room, he honestly fits very well. I expect him to compete for their edge 3 spot, even maybe a starting spot right away if he can flash a lot in camp. This is a guy who's going to compete for a lot of playing time very soon, in my opinion. A 6'3", 264-pound edge, not the longest edge in the world, but very, very thick for his build. Like I said, a lot of technical ability. Going to be 23 in his rookie season, put up a 9.75 RAS. Like I said, he's not an outworldly athlete on tape. I did not expect that RAS at all. Now, he does have some get-off. He does have the ability to get his hips through on the rush, so you do see the athleticism in that sense. But, it's not like he was moving around like an Abdul Carter or a James Pierce or a Mike Green or a Jalen Walker like that. Especially at that size. Moved a little bit better than a Donovan Ezaraku, kind of more in a similar movement base, I think, to that type of player. But, still a very solid to good athlete. Just did not expect him to test like that. Had 4.5 sacks, 10 hurries, 10 TFLs, and 43 tackles on the season. Was a 2024 second-team ACC selection, a 2023 first-team ACC selection last year, where he was a lot more productive. A 3-year starter for Louisville. He's been producing at a high level for a long time for them. This is a very solid pick. It gets a B for me, just because, there was some other bodies on the board that I think were better fits for this team and were better edge rushers. Landon Jackson being a very, very big case in point of a guy who went a little bit later, who I thought should have went a lot earlier in the second round, but still, not a bad pick at all. Their next pick, they go Noah Williams, a cornerback out of California, with the 85th pick, the 21st pick of the third round, getting this as part of a trade up with the Patriots, sending over 95 and a 2026 fourth for 85. I absolutely love it for this team in terms of scheme fit, in terms of value, in terms of positional need. This was such a good pick in my opinion. It gets an A. Noah Williams, the 85th pick, was 85 on my big board. Like I said, with having a member of the Chiefs organization as a fan and of the channel, they just drafted guys right where I thought they should have gone and are very good scheme fits for their team. A very good scouting department over there. I really like the way they targeted this class. Noah Williams was my 10th corner on the board, was the 12th one taken, and a true outside guy when there's not a lot of outside guys at this spot. This was great in my opinion. An A pick. This was such a good fit. of an outside physical, can play press man, and has athleticism to actually play on the outside. When we look at this room, Trent McDuffie is a great corner, but he does his best work when he's able to slide on the inside in the nickel. They definitely like moving him around. Outside of that, Watson is not a bad corner, but you need more guys outside of that. They bring in Christian Fulton, who's an okay piece, but definitely doesn't stop you from drafting anyone else in this room. Outside of that, you're really looking at Josh Williams. You need someone else in this room to compete for outside playing snaps. And Noah Williams, I think, can compete for a starting job in year one with Christian Fulton or Jalen Watson. I honestly think he can. He has that type of capability. Someone who, was more of a third round guy to me. It's not like I think he is a plus starter year one, but someone who is really going to compete in this room and push to compete if he can flash in camp, especially because he is such a good scheme fit of a man corner in this system. They like to get varied with their coverages. He has the athleticism to play zone and man. He has all the production in the world. He's got nice size at 6 foot 200. This is a very, very good corner to bring in this room. Going to be 23 during his rookie season, put up a 7.14 RAS. Didn't have the best agilities in the world, but like I said, this is a guy you're fine with starting on the outside. Doesn't have the best deep burning speed in the world, but still going to be fine in my opinion starting on the outside, and it's going to push Christian Fulton for that job. I really, really like this pick for them. Should be a starter for them long term. Even if it isn't this year, in a year or two, this guy should be getting a lot of snaps and, starting eventually for this team on the outside. Had a crazy production at California with 7 interceptions, 16 PBUs, insane production, 12.3 passer rating allowed when targeted in coverage, had 52 tackles, 1 TFL, 1 forced fumble, and a kick return touchdown on the season. Adds extra, kind of versatility and value as a special teams piece as well. A 2024 second team All-American and first team ACC selection at corner. I was surprised, especially when the outside corner group gets a little bit thinner once you get in the third round of this class, that he fell this far. But a lot of corners fell a lot farther than I thought they were in this class. So getting him at this spot, I think, is very nice value according to who's left on the board. Great value positionally. Was a honorable mention ACC all-purpose player as well as a returner. A 2-year starter for Cal. He spent his previous 3 years at UNLV. You like seeing him coming up to a kind of bigger, not the biggest kind of, conference in the world, then moving over to the ACC, but moving over to the ACC and just tearing house, just absolutely destroying that division, being a nightmare for quarterbacks. This was a very, very good pick in my opinion, and A for me. Should be starting in a year or two, if not at some point this year. Their next pick, they go Jalen Royals, a wide receiver out of Utah State, with the 133rd pick, the 31st pick of the 4th round. No trade compensation on this one. I absolutely love this pick. Now, a quick reminder for the final time as we get into these day 3 grades. These day 3 grades are going to be on a different basis than day 1. Day 1 and 2 are going to be weighted a little bit heavier. They're graded on a letter grade basis as teams kind of draft for Big Board, and Big Board according to their need, or BPA, best player available. Day 3, much more about getting kind of upgrades to aspects of a roster, whether it's getting a deep threat wide receiver in a room that doesn't have a lot of speed, or getting a 6'3", 6'4", 340, 350 pound meat clogger in the interior if you don't have a lot of run defending guys, getting a oversized safety and converting him to linebacker to help the pass coverage of your linebacker unit, kind of stuff like that. If you can get a starter of someone you think is capable of a starter, that's great, but it's much more about upgrading aspects of your roster, upgrading aspects of a position group, and developing guys that are going to take over roles and earn roles based on the kind of aspects they bring to that room, and someone you can develop into a starter if they hit, their upside, their ceiling. Now, Jalen Royals gets an I love it. This is a guy who was a top 75 player on my big board. Oh, also, again, it's going to be graded on, and I love it. I like it. I see the vision for it, and I don't get it. If you want more of a concrete definition on all of those, make sure you check out the description where I'll have those, as well as information about anything you're seeing on your board, how I grade, everything like that. If it's not in there, come scream at me in the comments, as well as just talking with me down below in the comments in general. I love talking football with you guys, hearing your insights, hearing your constructive criticism, all that good stuff. But I will be explaining, why I've selected each kind of category for these picks. But Jalen Royals, Kitson, I love it. This was so good in my opinion. When we look at their wide receiver room, they have Xavier Worthy, who they took in the first round as a real burner. Hollywood Brown, more of a slot to Z type separator and burner. They have Rashid Rice, who can do sort of some of their X role, but does his best work from the slot, in my opinion. Juju Smith has done his best work from the slot over his career, doesn't keep you from drafting anyone. And then Sky Moore, another one of these kind of undersized, kind of gadget slot Z types. Jalen Royals, someone who I thought did his best work from the Z, but has the size and the contested catch win rate and ability to do the X receiver role for them, and the size to do it. 6 foot isn't the biggest guy in the world, but at 6 foot 205, he's got the thickness, he's got the high point ability, like I said, big contested catch win rate over his career at Utah State. So you trust him to be able to step in this room and carve out a role. Like I said, someone who I had on my top 75 big board was a top 10 wide receiver for me. So in terms of true value, this is exceptional value in my opinion. I thought this was a guy who's going to be drafted in the second round, maybe fall to the third. He doesn't have an elite trait, so once you get out of the third round, I can understand why he would fall. It's not like he's an elite separator. He has elite speed. He has elite size, something like that. But a very just jack of all trades type receiver that actually has 4.42 speed. I didn't expect him to test that well, but he actually has speed to separate vertically. He has route running savvy. He can snap his routes. He is a tough contested catch type of receiver. Just a jack of all trades, very solid receiver. He's going to a room that doesn't have really any X types. He can carve out a role really early in his career, and I think should start for this team down the line, if not this year, and be a very nice receiver for this team. Like I said, exceptional value, fits a role that this wide receiver room doesn't necessarily have. Absolutely love it for them. The 6 foot, 205-pound receiver, going to be 23, towards the very back end of his rookie season. Put up a 9.01 RAS, tested very well, a little bit better than I thought he would test. I thought he was a good athlete, not a great athlete, but he honestly tested very well. In only 7 games due to injury this year, he had 55 receptions on 80 targets for 834 yards, 6 touchdowns, 15.2 yards per catch, which is very nice, and 3 drops. Was a 2024 second team Mountain West Conference selection and a 2023 first team Mountain Conference selection when he did have a full season. In that season in 2023, when he did have his last full season for Utah State, he also set the single season record at Utah State for receiving touchdowns in his season with 15, which is a lot. This guy, in only 2 years of starting as well, this year and last year, this guy has been producing very well since he has become a starter. Isn't at the highest level of competition at Utah State, but on tape, this man is a very good receiver. I'm so excited for him to come to the Chiefs because I think he is going to carve out a role early for this team and be a productive player sooner than later. A very good pick in my opinion. Their next pick, they go Jeffrey Bassa, a linebacker out of Oregon with the 156th pick, the 20th pick of the 5th round. Getting this as part of a trade up with the Steelers, sending over 164 and 226 for 156. 164, which they got from the Eagles earlier from trading back one spot with the Eagles when they took Josh Simmons. This was a very solid pick in my opinion. I thought Jeffrey Bassa was more of a late 4th type of, more of a 5th round type of guy. So this is kind of the range I thought he would have gone, and comes to a room where I think he is going to have a role long term. Now I do have a little bit of insight about these linebackers for the Chiefs. As part of my work with the Scouting Academy, I actually visited the Chiefs training camp last season for a day, and I studied their linebackers, just only studied their linebackers, getting to know, Cam Jones, Jack Contrain, and Cole Christensen. They're kind of UDF guys, as well as studying, Jude Tranquil, Leo Chanel, Nick Bolton, their starters. But gave me a lot of insight on kind of, how they're going to use those guys and kind of how good or how competitive those UDFA guys are. Now, Cam Jones and Cole Christensen, I'm going to say, are going to push Jeffrey Bassa for playing time. But that being said, they are UDFA guys. Jeffrey Bassa is going to have a place on this roster, especially because I think he is going to replace Drew Tranquil long term as more of their free-flowing / sub linebacker type. Jeffrey Bassa, a safety converted to linebacker early in his career at Oregon, started after converting over to linebacker during his freshman year, was a 3-year starter after that. A lot of experience at the linebacker position for him. But you see the athleticism, he did transfer over from safety. This is a guy who can definitely move and doesn't have bad linebacker size at 6'1", 232. That weight at 6'1" is honestly pretty solid, especially for the NFL in this day and age. Like I said, Drew Tranquill has been very good for them, but he only has 2 more years on his contract where he's going to be 31 when that contract comes up. He is more of their free-flowing kind of linebacker who moves around in space, comes in on nickel and dime as their sub linebacker. They trust him in coverage. He's been very solid for them. I think Jeffrey Bassa comes in, learns behind these other guys, these more early down centered guys in Nick Bolton and Leo Chanel, and just kind of over time molds himself into that sub linebacker role when Drew Tranquill kind of leaves after his contract is up, or if they decide to move on from him after this year. I think this is a very, very good, solid, just depth pick. Now, like I said, he is going to have a roster spot because outside of those 3 guys, it is just their kind of UDFA guys who they've kept on the practice squad or as depth. But he is going to compete for, an LB4 spot or an LB5 spot with these other guys. So he is going to compete for snaps as a rotational guy. And like I said, in a year or 2, should take over that sub LB role and really take over that kind of nickel dime linebacker role. I really like the pick. Not going to get the most out of him year 1, but should be a very nice role player for them a few years down the line. This is kind of around the value. I think you should have been able to get this player. It's an I like it pick. A 6'1", 232-pound linebacker, going to be 23 in his rookie season. A 6.93 RAS. I honestly expected him to test a little bit better than that. This is a very solid athlete, so don't be scared by the just true overall score. Had 54 tackles, 2.5 TFLs, 1.5 sacks, 2 PBUs, 2 forced fumbles, and 5 missed tackles on the season. Not a ton of true tackle production, but this guy flies all over the field. Is going to make a lot of splash plays for you. A 2024 Big Ten honorable mention and a 3-year starter, like I said. Had also 7 starts as a true freshman for them. A lot of starting experience after switching over from safety to linebacker. A very solid player and a very solid pick. Their last pick, the last pick we're going to be talking about in this series, they go Redshirt Smith, a running back out of SMU, with the 228th pick, the 12th pick of the 7th round. Again, another trade up, sending over 251 and 257 for 228. I absolutely love this for them. Love this for them. Honestly, I do. Redshirt Smith was worth so much more than this, in my opinion. I thought he was going to be more of a day 3 guy, but more of like a 4th or 5th round guy, not a 7th round guy. This is such a good value, in my opinion, and is going to such a good room where he can carve out a role. This is a receiving type back. Spent 3 years as a receiver over at Miami before transferring over to SMU and converting to running back. So all the receiving chops in the world. Like, it's not like he converted to running back his first year in college. No, he's been a college receiver for the last 3 years, converted to running back, and in his first year as a running back was super productive for SMU. He has all the receiving chops. He's going to a room with the Kansas City Chiefs that loves to get their running backs involved in the receiving game. Isaiah Pacheco, coming back off injury last year, did not seem like he had the same juice that he had prior. We'll see how he can come back, after a full offseason to get healthy. Kareem Hunt, they brought back. At this point in his career, he's not a long-term option. He's not someone you're planning to keep around, 2-3 years down the line. Redshirt Smith should carve out a role as their 3rd down back, as a receiving back, and as a change of pace, kind of juiced up type back when they want to get Isaiah Pacheco off the field. And long term, if they don't, keep around Kareem Hunt. This is such a good value, in my opinion. Honestly, he's going to be used super well by Andy Reid, and just screens and schemed kind of touches, getting him out in space, lining him up out wide and in the slot, and getting kind of varied with him. Like, I just think they're going to use him as a chess piece, and I think it is such a good pick, especially in the 7th. If you want to take a chance on a converted wide receiver, this is the chance you take him, especially if he's going to be this productive in his first year. He is 5'10", 190, definitely undersized for a running back. He is coming over from wide receiver. He's not going to be the biggest guy in the world, but still only 22, not an old prospect. Put up a 7.21 RAS. He's going to be fine for an athlete as a running back. You don't got to worry about that. had 1,332 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns rushing, and 5.7 yards per carry, which is not bad at all. 39 receptions for 327 yards, 4 touchdowns. Only had 2 fumbles on the season. Both of them came in one game against BYU. He might have a fear of Mormons. I don't know, but he didn't fumble at all during the rest of the season. And the fact he didn't as a wide receiver, very high upside, man. And coming to a room, like I said, where they love to get their running backs involved in the passing game. This is such a good scheme fit and such a good value in the 7th round. I absolutely love it for them. A 2024 third-team All-American all-purpose selection and a first-team ACC selection as a true running back. In his first year, like I said, at SMU, in his first year as a running back, spent his previous 3 years at Miami, where he honestly wasn't terribly unproductive. He had solid productiveness as a wide receiver. Coming to the running back position, he's going to be much more ready day one as a wide receiver than a lot of other running backs are in the NFL. So a very good pick, man. This just rounds out a very good class. They hit all their needs that I wanted them to hit immediately. They got guys that are going to come in and compete for starting roles up and down the board. They got guys on day 3 that are going to come in and compete for roles immediately and compete for snaps and starting roles down the line. This was just such a good class, top to bottom, getting very good values in day 3 and getting guys either on good values or right about where I thought you should have got them on day 1 and 2. A very good class, man. If you had stuck around this long to hear me ramble about the Chiefs, I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, or if you've been kind of following along throughout the series and you've enjoyed the series, please let me know down below. Even if you don't, if you made it to this point in the video, I really do appreciate it. It means more than you could ever imagine. It really does. Really means the world to me. But if you want to let me know how you what you thought or how you think I'm doing as a kind of analysis type of guy, I'm losing my words at this point. I just recorded this video, the last one, back to back. I'm sorry. But if you enjoyed, and you want to let me know down below, please do. I really do appreciate it. If you've been kind of following throughout the series, hopping through videos, following your favorite teams, I really do appreciate it. I really do. I was not sure how this series was going to do, especially after I'd waited so long to get it out. Had some unfortunate medical stuff go on that kind of delayed the series at times. They're still getting a lot more traction than I thought they would. So I really do, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate all the support, all the views, all the clicks, everything, all the shares. It means the world to me. I'm so excited. It makes me want to do this series again next year. And so I am planning on doing it again next year. So thank you guys. It has been a huge motivation booster throughout this process to see this series do well. Now I am going to try to figure out how to make this more streamlined. Maybe not make it 32 videos next year. That making 32 thumbnails, editing 32 videos, recording 32 videos. As someone who doesn't get paid to do this, it makes a lot of wear and tear on the mental. It's a lot of time going into this stuff. So I'm going to try to figure it out. I wanted to drop this in order of how they were ranked, but we'll see if I kind of streamline this down. Let me know your guys' opinion on if you kind of want it in the same format or in a different format. I will have a lot more players watched next year, so we'll kind of have more big board rankings going into day 3. I wanted it to be a little bit more clean and limited to day 1 and 2, but we'll extend that next year into day 3. Hopefully I'll have a PFF subscription and I can bring you guys some more advanced stats, all that good stuff. But if you did enjoy it, thank you guys. I really appreciate it if you guys did enjoy it, and I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys have a great day. We're going to be getting into summer scouting next. I will be moving this week, actually, so the next time you see me, we'll be in a different location, hopefully with some better lighting. So thank you guys for kind of bearing with me through this initial stretch as I try to get this channel off the ground. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great day.